Hi, math students. This is Mr. Hatchgasm again, and today we're going to be learning about forming and solving equations. So, before we start, you can pause the video and have a go at these two questions. So we have 2 plus 4 times 2, and then we have 10 times 6, bracket 6 minus 2, close bracket, plus 4. So how would we solve these problems? So, you would have heard, or you may have heard, about BIDMAS. And BIDMAS stands for brackets, indices, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So this is the order in which we would complete different operations. So addition is an operation, multiplication is an operation, subtraction is an operation. And in fact, all of these are different operations that we would perform when we are doing a specific calculation. So over here, what would come first, addition or multiplication? Well, if we follow this order, we can see multiplication comes first. So our problem here would be 4 times 2 plus 2, which will give us 8 plus 2, which is 10. And what about the second one then? What would the second one give us? So first we need to start with the brackets. So that would be 6 minus 2, which is 4. So we can write 4 underneath. We have times by 10, and we have add another 4 here. So what we'll end up with is we've done the brackets, that's given us 4. Then we need to do the multiplication. So 10 times 4 is 40, plus 4 is 44. Now, this is quite important to understand when you're solving equations. So if I just move on to the next slide and clear all my drawings. All right, so now we have equations that we need to solve. And I think it might be a little bit difficult for you to see the one over here. So I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. Do apologize. Okay, here we go. So I've got 5x minus 1 plus 14. So firstly, we need to understand what operations are happening to x being our unknown variable. So we have 5x, which means 5 times x. So this means 5 times x. And I'm just going to write my x like this so we don't confuse it with the multiplication sign. And then we're also subtracting by 1. So we're multiplying by 5. And then we are also subtracting by 1. Now, when you solve equations, you want to isolate x. So we want a situation where we just have x on its own and x is equal to a specific value for that equation. Now, to undo these operations, or to get rid of this 5 and this minus 1, we have to do the inverse operation. So the inverse operation just means the opposite operation. So times them by 5, the opposite of multiplying or times them by 5 is dividing by 5. And the opposite of taking away 1 would be to add 1. And we can try and make sense of this. So I'm just going to clear the annotations. So we're multiplying by 5 and we're taking 1 away, and that will give us an answer of 14. Now we talked about BIDMAS, so we follow BIDMAS when we do a calculation, but right now we want to undo those calculations. So if you're wondering where you would start from, whether you're going to get rid of this 5 first or this minus 1, well, let's look at BIDMAS. When we are doing the calculation, we go in this order. When we are undoing the calculation, we have to go in the opposite order. So we have subtraction here, so we would get rid of that first. And the opposite of taking away 1 is to add 1. And if you think about it, minus 1 plus 1 will leave us with 0. So minus 1 plus 1 will leave us with 0, and then we are just left with 5x on this side of the equation. So this is one side of the equation, and this is the other side of the equation. Now, we have to also maintain a balance. So if we add 1 to this side, we also have to add 1 to the other side. So we're going to be left with 14 plus 1, which gives us 15. So 5x is equal to 15. So 5 times x is equal to 15. And the opposite of times in 5 is to divide by 5. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So x is equal to, and the reason why we have x is because 5 divided by 5, well, that's just 1. And we could have written 1x, or rather than writing 1x, we can just write x. It really doesn't matter because x ultimately means 1x. So if I just get my pen back again, so x equals to 15 divided by 5, well, that's just 3. And to check if your answer is correct, you can substitute x into this equation. So we can do, instead of x, 5 times 3. I've used the brackets here. If I hadn't used the brackets, I would have ended up with 53. So that's 5 times 3 minus 1. Well, what would that give us? 5 times 3 is 15, minus 1 is 14. So that when x is 3, this statement is true. Okay, and moving on to the next example. So I'm just going to erase all of this. Now here we have a slightly different situation. So we're saying x over 5. X over 5 is the same as x divided by 5. So x divided by 5 minus 2 will give us 3. What is x? So once again, we're going to do the opposite of BIDMAS. So if we're dividing, we will have to multiply by 5. And if we are subtracting minus 2, we are going to add 2. And once again, do we start with division or the subtraction? Well, we're going to get rid of the subtraction first because we are following the opposite direction of BIDMAS. So I'm going to start by adding 2 to both sides. So minus 2 plus 2 is just 0. We're going to end up with x over 5 on this side, and that's going to give us 3 plus 2 is 5. I'm really going to stress this. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. So if you've added 2 here, we'll also have to add 2 to this side of the equation. Our equation, or the sides of our equation, being split up by the equal sign. So now here we have x divided by 5. Well, what's the opposite of dividing? That's going to be multiplying. So we'll multiply this side by 5. So the division and the multiplication will cancel out. So we're left with x equals, and then think about it here again. If we times by 5 on that side, we have to times by 5 on this side. So 5 times 5 will give us 25. And if we substitute 25 for x here, we should get an answer of 3. So 25 divided by 5 minus 2 is equal to, well, let's see, 25 divided by 5 is just 5, and 5 minus 2 will give us 3. So this answer is correct. All right, now slightly trickier example here. So we have x on both sides of the equation, and I'm just going to clear this up. Just a moment. So we have x on both sides of the equation here. So the key is to move x, or to collect all the x's on one side of the equation. So we have a situation like we have in this first example here. Now I can move either x. I can start by getting rid of the x on this side, on the left-hand side, or I could get rid of the minus 2x on the right-hand side. It really doesn't matter which side you start with. So what I will do is I will get rid of the negative 2x. So to turn negative 2x into 0, well, I just need to add 2x to this side, because negative 2x plus 2x is just 0. So what we're left with is 11. And then we also need to add 2x to this side of the equation, because whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So I have x plus 2x, well, that gives me 3x. And then I have my 5 that's remaining here. So now we have a situation that's quite familiar to us, as seen in the first example on the top left-hand corner. So here, instead of adding 5, we're going to subtract 5 because we want to get rid of this 5 here. So 5 minus 5 is just 0, so we're left with 3x and our equal sign. And then 11 minus 5, that's going to give us 6. And then we have 3x is equal to 6, so x equals, we have to divide both sides by 3 to get rid of this 3 here. Remember, we're timesing by 3, so to undo the multiplication of 3, we have to do the inverse operation, which is division. So 3 divided by 3 is just 1, so 1x is equal to 6 divided by 3, which gives us 2. And eventually you'll get so good at this that you won't really need to do all of these steps, but it's good practice to do so. That way you won't really go wrong. Okay, so, and moving on to the next example. And I'm just going to clear all of this up. Right, so if you want to pause the video and have a go at this, by all means do so. But what I'm going to do now is to try and solve this. So again, we've got the x's on both sides of the equation. We want to get rid of one, or we want to move one of the x terms, so we have all the x terms on one side. And I'm going to start with this here. So I have negative x, or negative 1x. And to get rid of negative 1x, I have to add x to both sides. So minus x plus x, or minus 1x plus 1x is just 0. So we're left with 2 on this side. And then 5x plus 1x is equal to 6x. And then we just bring the minus 1 down as well. So now I have 6x minus 1 will give us 2. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 1. So the opposite of taking away 1 is adding 1. So what we're going to be left with is 2 plus 1. That gives us 3. And then 6x minus 1. Well, we're adding 1. So minus 1 plus 1 is 0. So 6x equals 3. Now, what we need to do here, so we're saying 6 times x, so the opposite of timesing is dividing by 6. So x is equal to 3 divided by 6. Well, that can be written as 3 over 6. Sorry, that looks a bit dodgy. There we go. 3 divided x equals 3 divided by 6, and 3 divided by 6 is a half. So x is equal to a half. And that will be our answer. So we really need to be good at solving equations to be able to do the next step in our lesson. And I'm just going to move on, and we are going to have a go at solving some problems involving solving equations. So I'm going to clear all of this and let's move on. So here it says the perimeter of the shape is 30 meters, find x. So we don't actually know the length of this side or the length of this side. Now, to be able to work out the perimeter, you need to understand that the perimeter means the distance around the shape. So that's going to be the distance from here. I'm just going to draw it all the way down, all the way across, and going all the way up. So if the perimeter is 30, if we add this side to this side to this side to this side, that should give us 30. So we need to be able to form an equation here. Now, before I do, I need to make sure I understand that this side is also going to be 5 minus x, because these two sides are of equal length. And this side is also going to be 2x plus 6. So if I add all of these sides together, I will get 30 meters. And that will help me form an equation. So I can write 2x plus 6 plus 5 minus x. So 5 minus x is the expression for the height of our rectangle. And then plus 2x plus 6. And then finally plus 5 minus x. And that will be equal to 30. Sorry if I've written that a bit too high up. But that's 2x plus 6 plus 5 minus x plus 2x plus 6 plus 5 minus x is equal to 30. So I've just added the length of all these sides. Now I'm going to start by collecting the like terms. So I'm just going to use a different color. So I use green. So these are my x terms. I've got 2x, I've got negative x, I've got positive 2x. Notice how I'm including the signs with the terms as I circle them. That way it will be a lot easier to collect your like terms. So 2x minus x is just x, plus 2 is going to give us 3x, minus x is going to leave us with 2x. So once again, if we have a look, 2x minus x is just x, plus 2x is 3x, minus x is 2x. And then we can start by dealing with our numbers. So we have adding 6, adding 5, adding another 6, and adding another 5. So in total, that's going to give us 11 plus another 11. So 2x plus 22 is equal to 30. All right, now I have an equation that I can solve. And what I need to do is subtract 22 from both sides. So I'm going to be left with 2x is equal to 8. And then I need to divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So we found x. Now, how I can check to see if this this is correct, I can substitute x back into our equation that we'd created up here, or up top over here. So I could say 2 times 4 plus 6, and that's going to be 5 minus 4. And this is also going to be 5 minus 4. So instead of x, I'm substituting x with 4, and then I'm going to have 2x plus 6. So this is going to be 2 bracket 4 close bracket plus 6. So what is that going to give us? 2 times 4 is 8, plus 6 is 14. So this side is also going to be 14. And this side is going to be 1. And this side is also going to be 1. So 14 plus 14 is 28, plus 1 is 29, plus 1 is 30. So the value that I found for x is correct because it satisfies this information that we've been given. It says the perimeter of the shape is 30, and when x is 4, the perimeter is equal to 30. All right, moving on to another example then. So you would have lots of problems involving area and perimeter when you're dealing with shapes and algebra mixed together. So if I move on to the next slide. All right, and I'm just going to clear all the drawings. So it says find x, then the perimeter of the shape. So now we're not told what the perimeter is equal to. So we have to use our knowledge of algebra to be able to form an equation. Now, if I form an equation, or a statement of equality, I should say, because what we want to say is one thing is equal to another. Now, what we can see here is this length is equal to this length. So whatever this length is will be equal to this length. So we can say 2x plus 9 is equal to 4x plus 1. So by using our understanding of equality, we've created an equation here. So this side has to be equal to this side because we're dealing with a rectangle, and all rectangles have equal opposite sides. So now that we have an equation, we can try and solve it to be able to find x. So I'll start by removing this 2x here. So to get rid of this, I'll have to subtract 2x on both sides. So 2x minus 2x is just 0, so I'm going to be left with 9. 4x minus 2x is just 2x plus 1. Now we want to get x on its own. We want to isolate x. So I'm going to get rid of this addition. So instead of adding 1, we'll do the opposite. We'll take 1 away. So 1 take away 1 is just 0. So we're left with 2x. And 9 minus 1 will just give us 8. So 2x is equal to 8. So x will be equal to 4. And that's because to get rid of the multiplication by 2, we should divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So we're left with 1x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So x is equal to 4. And now, like we did previously, we need to substitute x into these expressions. So this is going to be 4. This is going to be 4. And in fact, I'm just going to rub the page out a little bit just to make things a bit clearer. And should hopefully be done. There we go. So this side's going to be 4, this side's going to be 4, and this side is going to be, well, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 9 is 17. And then 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 1 is also 17. So the fact that the two sides are of equal length, once we've substituted x into the expressions, we know we've done our workings in the correct way. So 17 plus 17 is 34, plus another 4 is 38, plus another 4 is 42. So we can say the perimeter is equal to 42. Have I got that right? 34 plus 4 is 38, plus another 4 is 42 centimeters. So again, this time, as opposed to the first example, we weren't given the perimeter, so we just had to make sure we understand that the two sides are of equal length. So let's try another example. All right, so it says work out the size of the smallest angle. Now, one thing you need to know when you're dealing with these problems is that the sum of the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So any triangle, all of the angles, if you add them together, will be equal to 180. So we can create an equation here again. So we can say 3x minus 10 plus 2x plus 25 plus, we have to include this angle here, and this square here indicates that we have a right angle, and right angles are equal to 90 degrees. So plus 25 plus 90. So if we add this angle and then add this angle and then add this angle, we should get 180. So again, here we have a statement of equality. We're saying all of these added together will be equal to 180. So let's collect our like terms. Let's simplify this. Or before simplifying, we can get rid of all of these variables and numbers, but I personally prefer to simplify. So we have 3x plus 2x. Remember, this is a positive 2x. So 3x plus 2x gives us 5x. And then we have, so I'll use a different color pen. We have minus 10 plus 25 plus 90. So minus 10 plus 25 is going to be 15. And then 15 plus 90 is going to be plus 105. So once we've simplified our variables up here, we'll end up with 5x plus 105, and we just need to bring down the 180. So this is equal to 180, and we just need to solve. So we want to get rid of the addition of 105. So I'm going to take 105 away from both sides. So 5x equals 180, take away 105 is going to be 75. And then x is equal to, well, what's happening here? So we need to divide both sides by 5. So divide both sides by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is just 1, and 75 divided by 5 is going to be 15. So x is equal to 15, and then it says work out the size of the smallest angle. So we need to substitute 15 into these expressions that we have here. So 15 times 2 is going to be 30. So 30 plus 25 will give us 55 degrees. And then over here we have 3 times 15, which is 45. 45 minus 10 is going to be equal to 35 degrees. So we know this is 90, we know this is 55, and we know this is 35. So the smallest angle is going to be 35 degrees. So the answer to our question will be 35 degrees. And notice one thing as well, if we add up the values that we've got, that should give us 180. So 55 plus 35 is 90, and 90 plus another 90 here will give us 180. And what did we say initially? We said angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. So our calculation here is correct. All right, well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a good day. And the key with these questions is just to be able to form statements of equality. So to be able to say one thing is equal to another, as we have been doing in these examples. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.